Hey everybody, it's Master Wanish here, and I am chatting with Alan today. He is a fellow Wing Chun practitioner and as well a power lifter, and actually came in second place in his very first powerlifting meet, strong as an ox. And we're both fans of, the whole powerlifting, world's strongest man, uh, generation, world, whatever you want to call it. And we thought it'd be fun to just chat about the whole dilemma, drama, however you want to define it, between Thor, half Thor Bjornsson, if I'm pronouncing that right, and Eddie Hall. There's been a lot of drama online with this, which is kind of weird. World's strongest man, creating drama, but people have been debating and talking about Thor coming up to break Eddie Hall's deadlift record. And for those that didn't know, and I know everybody does, Eddie Hall in 2016 at the Europe's Strongest Man broke and set the world's heaviest deadlift, pulling the most weight off the floor at 500 kilos. Thor is attempting to do this now, and the debate is, since he's not doing it at a sanctioned event, he's doing it in his own gym, will it still be legit? And Brian Shaw and Eddie Hall and Robert Orst, a bunch of the world's strongest men, have chimed in, given their 2 cents. And I thought it'd be fun for Alan and I as spectators to just kind of give our thoughts on whether we think it's valid or whatnot. So Alan, you want to kick off on what you think's going on here?
Yeah, I mean, and let me just reiterate something you said, which is, I'm a spectator. I'm an enthusiast, power lifter. It's changed, the kind of the way I carry myself, and I love the sport, and I love weightlifting. I love strongman. I wouldn't call myself an authority on it by any means. So I just want to make sure I'm making that, abundantly clear up front. But yeah, it's funny because you see these guys just doing these monumental lifts. These lifts are so huge. I can't imagine the amount of work and practice and the timing of it. I think that's the one thing with Thor. When you go to train, like right now, I'm training in blocks, and I was in a hypertrophy block as part of my periodization leading up to a strength block, and then I would taper the strength block off with a peaking block right before a competition. So you kind of set your competition date on the calendar, and you work back from that date to figure out your plan of, how do you make sure that you are strong enough to be competitive the date of competition. You work back from that date, and you figure out, okay, I'm going to do my muscle growth here. I'm going to do my strength work here. And then I'm going to do my, situation here. I'm going to do my strength work here. And then I'm going to do my peaking, where I'm doing, like my 1 rep max work, a lot of 1 rep, 2 rep max, like really heavy work, leading up to a deload. And then like the week before the event, a deload, and then the event. So, I can't imagine how locked in Thor's plan must have been to be able to compete at that event on that date, that now that he can't, it's really kind of like he's put so much work into the periodization, into the training, and into just making the perfect, like the strategy to get his body ready to be able to pull that kind of weight. And then to have that taken away just must be so painful, and so to some degree I feel bad for him, because he must have put a lot of work. The politics of it aside, he must have put so much work into just getting ready, because that's the gamble. Like he might in competition not even have made the lift, but that's the gamble, is that you get it all ready and you don't get injured. The week before, it gets like higher and higher risk the heavier the weights are. So yeah, man, a part of me is like, he should, based on the timing of that, he deserves some kind of chance to go after it, which kind of goes against what Eddie Hall is saying in terms of, it needs to be a competition, needs to be in calibrated plates. I think Thor is going to use calibrated plates. I have to look back at, is he going to be using a deadlift bar with calibrated plates like Alico's. But he's not going to be doing it in competition. Something interesting Brian Shaw said about that is that the competition setting creates it creates a lack of control over what the timing of when you go to do the lift. So if you're training, you're at your gym and you're ready to make your next lift, you can sit back and be like, all right, I'm gonna do my 135 or the whatever the progression is that you choose that you think is the best possible progression to make it up to the lift.
Right.
You don't get to choose the time in between your next lift when you're in competition. You might just have to run right after a competitor who craps out last second, and suddenly you don't have the same amount of time to deload in between each of the lifts that you're making. So I guess, to some degree that does change it, because Eddie Hall did have to do that when he set the record. But I still feel like if Thor can make that lift, he lifted that weight. If he makes that lift, he lifted that weight, and it's not just the moment of the lift, it's all the work that went into it. And the real question is, did the work that he's put into training for that lift, did that, result in his ability to make the lift? And the dude's a beast. And if you've been following any of his content and the stuff that he's lifting 1,000 pounds, for reps, he's doing crazy lifts, and he looks so smooth going up to, he's pulling the bar fast.
Yeah, it's clear to me that he can definitely do it. He's definitely got it in him,
I just don't see him not being able to do it,
Yeah.
Of course, it's been 4 years since Eddie Hall did it. So that, and he had a huge jump. I think it was like 30-kilo jump.
Yeah, it was massive.
So from the previous record. So he it won't be like a freak event. It won't be like, when Thor does it, he's gonna, I'll say 90% sure he's gonna do it. He's not gonna hurt himself when he's live streaming. I think there's a really good chance he's gonna do it, and then I think the next day nobody's gonna care.
Yeah. I mean, so the question is, do you consider it to be valid, even though it's not at a sanctioned event? Now, Brian Shaw mentioned something. They don't have a real governing body in World's Strongest Man. So there is no one governing body that defines the record. And, they do it at the World's Strongest Man or, Giants Live or one of these strongman competitions, then it's considered more valid. But, do you consider, do you think it should be considered a real world record? Or do you think, no, it's not valid because he's doing it at his own gym? Now, Magnus von Magnus, who is, famous world champion strongman and a judge, one of the judge who would probably be judging anyways, is going to be there. I'm sure they're going to weigh the plates. My feeling is that, they do have a judge there and they will be weighing the plates. I mean, Eddie Hall clearly said he's not going to consider it as a real world record. Now, of course, he's getting the one broken, but he's like, I'm not going to consider it because, and I was surprised he said, he's like, I just don't trust them. He's like, I don't trust the Icelanders, which I thought was a little harsh.
A little harsh. I mean, I don't know how harsh that is coming from a British person, though.
Yeah. And then Robert Orst was, he was like, I'm not choosing sides. I'm friends with both, but I really don't want to say, he's like, for the love of the sport, I don't think it's right. And I think he should hold off. And then Brian Shaw, I'm just summarizing what they said. And Brian Shaw said something of the tune, like he felt like, if you're setting a record at your own gym, then therefore, you're opening Pandora's box, as he said, and then other people can, start doing this all over the place. And it kind of, he didn't say this, but I'm assuming he was being, just kind of weakens the powers that be, I guess.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm conflicted because, like, you go to set like the Guinness Book of World Records, they come to you You know,
Correct.
they bring the judge to you, and they'll, you know, wherever you are, it's not a
That's an
competitive
excellent
thing,
point.
you know. And so it's like you set a world record, so long as there's an authority there that that can verify the authenticity of that record, you know, that works. And like that seems to work just fine for Guinness Book of World Records. So I, you know, I see that argument. I see the argument coming from Eddie Hall and from Brian Shaw, from the, you know, it makes sense. Like you really should, it's, you know, it's almost like a cultural question in strongman of what what is the criteria for defining a record versus a win. You know, it's one thing to win the competition, you know, like that's different. It's another thing to set a record, and but that's part of the competition, you know. And maybe the thing is, you know, maybe the question is, you know, for even if there's a judge present, even if Magnus is present, it does that really count? Do you need to have your competitors present? You know, do you need to have like, does it really need to be that you're, you know, does the confrontational component of it have to be there where you're doing that lift right in front of the guy who's saying, fuck you, I hope you don't make it.
Yeah, yeah. I
You know?
mean, I'm sure Eddie Hall, when he broke it, all his competitors, you know, whoever had it previous to him, I don't know if they were there or not.
Yeah.
I think, you know, also Thor, I thought he was going to do it at this previous Arnold, right? I thought he was going to do it there, and he certainly could have. But I think for two reasons, it was a good strategy not to, because to win the deadlift event, he didn't have to. He already won it. So
Mm-hmm.
why burn yourself out? And he
Yep.
needed to save some gas in the tank to really win the whole Arnold, which he did. So I thought that was a smart move. Plus, why would you want to set the world's, you know, break the world deadlift record there on somebody else's dime, you know, when all those sponsorships are really, you know, going towards Arnold? You know, better to do it on your own dime when you can control the environment, the event, the sponsors, and, you know, might as well make the most money out of it. So I thought it was a smart play financially, and it was a smart move because it just showed that he was more focused on winning the Arnold than setting, you know, breaking the deadlift record. So I thought that
Yeah.
was wise of him at the time not to do that. My
Yeah.
2 cents, and once again, I am, you know, I've been doing kung fu now for nearly, I was just thinking about it, almost 3 decades. I think I'm going on 30 years. I am not a power lifter. I'm not a bodybuilder. I mean, none of the above. I do work out. I enjoy lifting, but I don't consider myself to be any kind of anything special. I'm just a spectator coming at this from a pure spectator standpoint. I think personally, since he was going to do this in Bahrain at like a sanctioned event in front of everybody where it was all going to be legit, that was his goal. And we're at this time now with this global pandemic. This is a curveball thrown at the entire world. And, you know, the fact of the matter is, he's been primed up, working hard, geared up, wanting to do this. This is in his sights. And now he's got thrown this curveball and he has no other option. We don't know if this thing's going to go on and we're going to be on lockdown for months, for days, for, you know, they're saying another wave could come this coming winter and then another wave 2021. We don't know. So, and you know, I don't wish this on anybody, but like, what if he caught this virus and gets really ill, and then, you know, I'm not going to say, we all know what can really happen with this thing, but, you know, it could have a really adverse effect on him and put him in a situation to where he's not able to do it. It sets him back, you know, for a while. So I think the fact of the matter is everybody knows he's more than capable of doing it. He's proven he could do it. So due to the really rare circumstances, if he breaks it, in my personal opinion, I would say he's the world record holder. I mean, considering they don't have a real governing body, I find it very, you know, there's too many factors. So he's going to have a judge there. They can weigh the plates on camera. I doubt he's using fake weights. There's no way he would do it with fake weights, if you ask me. He's already the world's strongest man of this year. So, and you know, he's been thrown curveball after curveball. I just think at this point, you got to cut him some slack with these weird events at hand, and understand these aren't normal times and might not be normal times for the longest time. And why postpone it? If it was anybody, you know, I know it's easy for Eddie Hall and Robert Orse and Brian Shaw and all these guys who I respect, and they are beasts. But I get what they're saying, but at the same time, what if he gets ill and then is no longer able to do this for any reason, way, shape, or form? I mean, you know, I don't want to say worst case scenario, but I say knock it out while you can and you're trained for it. And, you know, if they don't want to consider it a world record, and, you know, when you're healthy down the road and there's an event where you could do this another time, then do it again. And you could show, you know, go even break your own world record, go a little higher maybe. But I personally think, due to these the situation at hand, there's been nothing like this before. We've never experienced a global pandemic in our lifetime.
Yep.
I would go for it, and I would certainly consider myself a world record holder with the judge, with weighted plates, with everything on video. There's just no faking it. I would go for it. And I have to say, I think if he breaks it, he breaks it. And everybody just, you know, Eddie Hall, much respect to that man, beast, the beast. But I'm going to say, you know, one of these days somebody was bound to break it, and Thor was probably the man to do it. So I would throw, you know, just hats off to you, you know.
And he's young. I mean, well, he's not yet, but he's in his prime, and he still has more of his prime to go. He's not the strongest Thor I think we're ever going to see. So, you know, I think it's almost like a timing thing to break the record. You know, next year he might break that, you know, the record he sets this year in competition.
Yeah.
You know? And I, you know, thinking about what you said about the Arnold, you know, they use the elephant bar, and I think there is validity to saying if you do it on the elephant bar, it's not the same, you know. And I kind of went back and forth on that a bit, but the thinking, the logic behind that, I got it. I have to remember where I got this from, but the logic is pretty sound that when the bar bends, the initial lift, because it bends so much on the initial lift, your starting point for the actual maximum weight of the lift is higher. So it's like you're not deadlifting from the ground up. You're deadlifting from a little, just like that extra inch higher from the slack, and that can make a huge difference when you're getting off the ground. But then there's the bounce that I've heard Eddie Hall talk about. And I've never used an elephant bar, so I go back. You know, it's just like, it feels like it's like a different art, you know. But you pick that thing up, and apparently once you're up, the wobble on the bar, you have to be able to control the oscillation on the bar, and make sure that it's not actually it doesn't throw you back down, or you don't fail because of the technique that you need to hold it. So it's just a different lift, you know.
I heard Thor say, I believe it was Thor that said it was harder on the elephant bar. And then I heard Eddie Hall saying it was harder on the regular bar, that I guess the Texas bar. So, I mean, is he doing it, Thor doing it on an elephant bar, or is he doing it on, I think he should do it on the same bar.
He's going to do it. He's going to do it on a deadlift bar and with calibrated plates. But at the Arnold, they use the elephant bar.
Right. That's what I thought.
He couldn't, you know, he wasn't going to set the record at the Arnold.
Gotcha.
And everyone would say, it's an elephant bar. It's a totally different lift, you know.
And I have to say, I think it should be on the same exact bar Eddie Hall used. Otherwise, if it's on an elephant bar, it is a different lift and it is a different record. So you set the world's, you know, greatest deadlift record on an elephant bar versus a regular bar. I think they're two different bars, two different tools, two different records. So I do agree with that. I have to say, I definitely agree with that. They would be different records.
I don't like the political layer of this, though. I feel like it's just like shitty, bad sportsmanship, you know. Forgive my language, but like the whole, you know. So I go back and forth because it's like sometimes the most talented people, you know, like the talent that they're showing you, that talent is like all they've got. You know, it's like that's my thing. That's my thing that I do, and I do it the best. You know, and you hear like Dave Tate and these old school powerlifters talk about other powerlifters that they've met, and Dave Tate says off of Elite FTS, he goes, you have to have an ego. There's a recent video he published, and he's like, you know, if you're going to be the best, you have to have an ego. You know, and I can see how that kind of plays in when you're in that top tier, but it feels like it kind of cheapens the whole thing to have Eddie, you know, who I've respected, who I've seen his character is like jovial, you know,
Right.
fun loving, generally not give a shit character, you know, like pretty grounded. I've always kind of seen him as being pretty grounded. You know, he does silly videos where he's wearing a tutu, you know, and you know, and doing gymnastics, and I think that's
Yeah.
just hilarious.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, that, you know, that guy has a good head on their shoulders. You know, you see him doing CrossFit stuff. Hey, that guy has a good head. But then with this one, you know,
And like Martin Lisi's, he's the, you know, he's very
yeah,
jolly.
love
And
that
there
guy.
is a lot of, I noticed one of the things that attracted me to the sport too was the camaraderie. You
Yeah,
know, like they always were patting each other on the back. They're cheering each other on. They're all like, you know, there's a lot of great sportsmanship. They're there to,
Thor's
they're,
never in those videos. Have you seen all the Brian Shaw, Eddie Hall video, like all those videos that they have together? They do
right,
they're all there hanging out together. Robert Overs, they're all hanging out. Thor's never in any of them.
right, right. So
And I,
he's maybe the villain in their eyes. You know what I'm saying?
that or like maybe he's just the guy. Like I don't know what the underlying shit is there, but maybe he's like, you know, maybe he's like, you know, I don't like them, and I don't want to I don't want to hang out with them. You know, like
Yeah.
I'm over here doing my own thing. I don't know.
I
I
know
don't know.
Martin was over training with him before the Arnold, and they were, you know, filming and doing stuff for their channels and creating content. And,
Mhm.
but yeah, I mean, but in general, like it seems like they're all, you know, you're right though. It's more of that tighter niche group, but they're all patting each other on the back, and they're all, you know, very supportive of each other because, you know,
Yeah,
there's only a handful of people in the world that can do what they do,
yeah, they're
and
farting
they're
in each
all,
other's
but
faces and shit.
now that there's this record on the line, everybody seems to be very, you know, all of a sudden there's, you know, drama, you know, and I
Yeah,
know maybe a lot of it's just for content, for views. It got us talking about it out of nowhere. So,
yeah.
you know, I'm sure others are going to be talking about it.
Feels political in the political sense, like left and right, you know, conservatives, liberals, where it's like, you know, liberal politician accomplished XYZ. Conservatives are like, you know, no way, he didn't really do it. Conservative politician accomplishes XYZ. Liberal politician, no way, this is why that doesn't count, you know, and it's just like back and forth. Same shit. It feels like the same shit, polarization. And it makes me wonder, is it literally like the dude literally, Eddie literally laid out like, I don't trust the Icelandics, you know? It's like, is he just watching a lot of Vikings, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know where that, like, why. Yeah, I thought that was a little bit. He's just like flat out, I don't trust them. They're not honest. I'm like, wow,
It's
that's
too
pretty
much.
bold, harsh statement to make. You know,
And yeah, and it's like, is that the root of all of this? Is
like you're
that what
putting the whole
it is?
country, you're labeling the whole country. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like,
too much, too much.
um,
I
you
love
know,
you, Eddie, but too much.
yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, you know, I'm a fan of all these guys, but at the same time, I think it's, you know, I just think under the, I think if the table was turned and it was any one of those guys, they would be going for the record in their own gym because that's the only other option at hand other than sitting back and saying, I'm not going to do it. But like I said, you know, I can't help to think like this virus supposedly is going to be something that affects us all at some point. There's no vaccine. There's no real cure. Eventually, we're going to get it, and we see the strongest people go down, and the weakest people survive it, or vice versa. It seems healthy, young, sick, old. This thing has your number on it. It has your number on it. So why wait and get sick with some unknown virus and not be able to attempt something you've been training so hard to do? This isn't like he's just like out of nowhere said, "Oh, now I'm going to go try to break this record since, while no one's, on my own backyard." This is something he has been planning, for a long time now. So I say go for it. And I say, if you do it, you do it. And that's all there is to it. There's going to be a judge there. They're going to be weighted plates. I think I think everybody knows he's capable. I mean, you've seen him come close to doing it in his own gym before. I don't know. I just think in these circumstances, you gotta take all this into, and it's not opening Pandora's. If this is how life is and we're all quarantined, then we better be, these things will probably happen more. People will be breaking the records in their own backyard where, once this is all out and we're all out and about in public, then no, that wouldn't be quite as acceptable. Clearly he could do it at a sanctioned event. He would. Since you can't, I say go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And honestly, if I watch that stream and I see Thor lift it, it doesn't matter what anybody else says. I'm gonna know Thor is the strongest deadlifter.
Yeah. Honestly, I think he is. He proved it at the Arnold. He was the strongest deadlifter by far. He crushed everybody. He could have done more weight. He could have actually just broke it right there. I just thought, once again, he did it to save some gas and maybe do it on his own dime so he could get the payday for it, rather than giving it all to the Arnold. And all the sponsors are there for the Arnold, paying Arnold. Might as well do it when you're getting the sponsorship money. So cool stuff. Well, let's hope. Do you know when he's gonna? It sounds like this is happening soon, right?
It's here. What's this?
I should have looked that up prior.
Yeah, it's all right. When's he planning on it? Honestly, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if he's holding it. Let's see here. Deadlift record. Record date.
501. It's a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really see anywhere where
I feel like he's just kind of like he's just
all this road to 501.
he hasn't said. I don't think he's set a date of when he's going to do it. I feel like he's just taking his jolly time, getting to that point. I could be wrong, but it doesn't look like he's actually set a date. He could just be fluffing us.
Yeah. No, I think
until the date.
Yeah, he should set a date and make it. I mean, I'm sure a date has to be set if, like, you're going to have a judge there and some people going to be there. It'd be interesting, because you always see he's got his whole crew there cheering him on. Yeah. Are they all going to be 6 feet apart, social distancing? Are they all going to be right on top of each other cheering? This is a strange time we're all dealing with here. So who knows? But I wish him luck, and I hope all goes well, and we'll see what happens. I think it's going to be cool.
Yeah, it'll be cool to see it. It'll be cool. I'll be watching it, so.
Yeah, me too. Well, maybe we'll do a little live stream around that,
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So might as well. So, all right. Well, that's our 2 cents on the whole deadlift journey. And be sure to leave some comments down below. Let us know what you think. Do you think this is a legitimate lift? Should he get the world's record? Leave your comment down below. We'd love to hear your 2 cents. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe this video. And I hope to see everybody in the near future. And good luck to Thor on his lift. We'll see you soon. Take care.